Good evening and a warm welcome to Big Budget Business, where we highlight prolific individuals who are making strides in their respective fields. Today we are speaking to Letsha Kgotla, who is the Wellness Coordinator at Key Wealth. Letsha Kgotla, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Big Budget. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wow, the pleasure is certainly ours here. Thank you. We're honored to have you. Let's start with an introduction of yourself. Tell us about Letsha Kgotla. Anything you'd like us to know?
Right, thank you so much. My name is Letsha Kgotla. I'm a counselor by qualification.
Okay.
But I've evolved into training and wellness over time and exploring myself in the working space. So I grew up in a family of 5, quite a small nuclear family, mom, dad. I have an older sister and a younger brother.
Great.
So they all live in Ramotsa now, and that's our home village.
Oh, okay.
So, my childhood was quite interesting. Like anybody, you go through challenges, you go through nice memories and not so nice ones. But I firmly believe that our childhood really makes us who we are. And I think my experiences as a child growing up really highlighted to me how power comes from within. When I was younger, my dad used to take us for gymnastics, and I recently discovered that it was in that space that I realized that power really is an internal job. Drive comes from within, because when you're in that gym, when you're in that space, sky is the limit. If there's a limit at all, anything you ask your body to do, it will do, and you have full control, and you get to say what your potential is.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. I like that. So, certainly a colorful childhood in terms of what you said about learning early on that power comes from within, and how childhood experiences shape a lot about like who we become in the future. No, that's great. And I'm sure they're watching in Ramoswa and proud of you and everything. Wow. And I like how you said it. You said you started off as a counselor, but then you evolved. We'll get a bit more into this evolution. I like that. That's a powerful term.
Thank you.
Now, you represent Key Wealth. Tell us a bit about this organization, what it does, what are its services and the like.
Right. So Key Wealth is a group of companies. Okay. They are 4 business units now.
Oh,
so when I came into Key Wealth, I came to manage the training company. Okay. But that was just something that we discovered by accident, the evolution that we speak about.
Of course.
Right. So I joined Key Wealth as a support service to the counseling programs. But later we realized how we were aligned in what we were trying to do in the training space. Okay. So I came in as a learning and development manager, and I managed the training company for a while. And over time, we realized that there's so much need for us to expand and grow into the wellness space. It's something that we've been doing, but not so pronounced. Okay. So we then gave birth to this wellness unit, Key Wellness now, which already has quite a number of clients under the belt.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Who we are servicing with employee wellness programs. Okay. And some of the components of these wellness programs are counseling, that's psychosocial counseling, therapy as we know it. But we also provide financial consultation, where our clients get to meet with our financial planners one-on-one. That's a huge component of it. You see, we believe that wellness is a holistic job. We can't take care of one facet of wellness without taking care of all others. Okay. So we try and combine as much as possible every aspect of wellness and put it together in these wellness program packages. We also have the advisory business unit that does financial advisory for individuals and organizations. Okay. And then finally we have Key Wealth Risk Management, which is also doing its own evolution, but they offer risk management solutions and insurance.
All right, great. So I like that, the organization is expanding, but taking a holistic approach. That's what you said.
100%. You see, the dream is to become a one-stop shop. We really already are.
Wonderful.
We really already are. We are just going to evolve to be able to host all our products and services in-house.
Okay.
Right now, what we do have is reliable partnerships and, of course, the vision for where we're taking this thing.
Yes.
So, yes, in due time, we will be an independent, soul-run, one-stop shop for wellness.
Wow. Wow,
Yes.
that's great. Wellness, and I think it's certainly an issue of our time right now. Wellness in all aspects. But broadly speaking, just to summarize, you did say at Key Wealth you have the advisory, which is
Yes.
more financial, you have training,
Yes.
basically, and then you have wellness.
Yes.
And then you said there's the risk aspect.
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yes.
Right.
So you see, it comes together. You see, everything that we do is founded on the principle of moving humanity forward. So education is a huge thing when it comes to changing people's lives and empowering people, giving them the right mindset. So that's why we have training, to give that education aspect. But you also need guidance, that's advisory, and then you need the actual solutions. Risk.
Wonderful, wonderful. You summed it up pretty well there.
Thank you.
And now let's talk about you and where you come in. You are the wellness coordinator. Tell us about your particular role and its importance.
Right. So I recently took up this role. It was a step up from
Congratulations.
where I previously was. So right now, as a wellness coordinator, I take care of our internal and external customers in giving them wellness solutions. When I talk about internal customers, it's so important that as an organization, you take adequate care of your workforce, because they are the entity. They are what everything that is Key Wealth comes from, the individuals that build the organization. So that's one of my mandates as a wellness coordinator. That's my primary mandate as a coordinator. Doing what I do, servicing our clients, is an add-on to that. But primarily, my focus is our internal customers, making sure that they are well. We recently started a self-awareness exercise where we went through each other's our personalities in the office, just so that we get a feel of, okay, who is who and what works best for who.
Wonderful.
Because once we get to understand that, we are able to empower people to create a better life for themselves, and also know what we need to do to create a great environment for them to prosper.
Wow, I think just that's quite an interesting aspect, because a lot of people tend not to see the value of such exercises, because if I'm running an organization and I just pick 3 or 4 people and I don't undertake such exercises, it becomes difficult for me to see where to develop others, where there's a possible lack, and also to strengthen, to further improve on the strengths that people have.
True.
So this is part of what you guys do.
Exactly, because you can't measure the intelligence of a fish by how well it can climb a tree.
Exactly.
So it's very important that we create a culture where it's better to know and understand yourself than to misunderstand yourself and think that there's something wrong with you. Because that's also the birth of most of mental health ailments. The anxiety, the depression, it comes from not understanding who you are as an individual and being disempowered to create an environment that makes you prosper.
Wow. Oh, that's great. No, thank you so much for that. So, and I really need to applaud you as a firm that perhaps started within the financial services sector, and then you come on board, and then you catalyze things, and then you get onto the wellness aspect. It's important for people to take a more humanistic approach to their businesses, because a lot of people will say, okay, no, cash is the lifeblood of the business, but a lot of other people believe that it's actually your humans. Like, in as much as we have the blood, your human element, your human capital component is the lifeblood of your business.
Yes, a successful strategy begins with a good culture in the organization. And when you talk about our transition from being just financial services and transitioning into wellness, we couldn't help but do that, because financial issues, personal finance, is 80% behavior and only 20% knowledge. So if we're not working on developing the individual, then where does this information go?
Wow, let's get deeper into that. Your perspective on this mental health and wellness aspect, and then in tandem or in comparison with the personal finance aspect. How do we tie the two together?
All right. So have you noticed, just an observation, probably yourself or somebody that you know, that when you are thinking about running out of money, or when you are anxious, you're stressed out, it seems as if you run out of money quicker? Because there's a correlation.
I'm laughing for a friend, not for myself.
Of course. I'm not laughing for myself either.
Wow.
Because there's a correlation between mental health and personal finance. If you're not doing so good mentally, then chances are you won't do so well in your personal finances. Why? Because some of our behaviors are enabled by how much money we have. When you talk about habits like binge drinking, binge eating, they're enabled by how much money you have.
Absolutely.
And if you're not mentally fit, then you become more susceptible to falling victim or falling into the traps of your own dysfunction. So mental health, when you boost your mental health, you're kind of cutting off some of the things that would easily catch you and get you into the cycle of not being aware. That's what anxiety does. Anxiety kind of takes you out of the present moment, and you become consumed with what if, or if I had done this better, I probably wouldn't be. All these thoughts go on in your head, and you can't absorb what is in the present moment. Now that's very disempowering, because you're unable to see opportunities. You're unable to accept facts or process facts as they are, because you have this cloud of projection that comes from your thoughts. So you need to take care of your mental health if you're going to do any well in your personal finance.
Wow. And certainly the aspect of projection, because especially with young people in business, we tend not to focus on what's at hand. As you've mentioned, being in the present, we're not really there because we are at that next million, or we are at that, that billionaire status, or, of course, if it's employment creation, we're always there, or either regretting, oh, I should have taken this business decision, I should have partnered with so-and-so, I should have taken that seed capital or something, but then we're not really here and focusing on today's issues.
Yeah, and you see it in investment as well, the way people invest their money, and that's how Ponzi schemes really cash in. They cash in on anxiety, on anxious people who are really looking for a quick fix for their personal finance problems. And, more often than not, you find that it doesn't work out, and that makes them, a potential to the next Ponzi scheme.
Oh, yes. To sort of make up for the losses over there.
To make up for the loss.
And then it becomes a vicious cycle.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, very insightful conversation that we're having here, ladies and gentlemen, with Letsha Kgotla of Key Wealth. And now you did say there's Key Wellness.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. All right, so now we've spoken a bit about, how we can tie mental health and personal finance issues. But another thing that a lot of people, I'm big on social media. And so there's a lot of trending issues with respect to emotional balance. I'm sure a lot of people out there would want to understand your perspective as someone in the field. What exactly is emotional balance, and how can we attain this?
Right. So emotional balance is very closely linked to our self-management. How do we manage ourselves as individuals? And earlier we spoke about self-awareness being a huge thing there, that once we understand who we are, once we're aware of our personality, once we accept the things that we've been through and the life journey that we have had, once we get to that point, we understand better how to manage ourselves. Now, it's important to be able to manage yourself well, because stress, right? Stress that manifests into anxiety, that manifests into depression, really comes from a lack of self-management. When you're unable to manage yourself well, you become susceptible to stress and these other ailments that come with it. So it's very important that as an individual, you ask yourself a number of questions. How am I doing? You call it checking in psychology terms. Checking in. What's the date today? Am I aware of where I am? Okay, I'm in BigBudget Studio. It's 2021. Okay, where am I going from here? How am I going to get there from? Are you in the present moment?
Checking in.
Not only that, but you also need to check on your emotional, how you're feeling, right? How have I felt today? okay, I felt a bit anxious about this interview. What else did I feel? I felt happy. I was excited. I'm finally doing this show.
And accept all of that.
And accept all of that. Because the lack of awareness makes you susceptible to being triggered and not being aware of it, and then you don't know how to avoid these situations. That's what self-management is. Knowing the kind of environment that does well for you and the kind of environment that doesn't do so well for you. Some people enjoy waking up early and it works for them because they get up and they kill the day. Some people don't want to wake up early and it works for them because they work so hard during the night. So it's about understanding yourself as an individual and doing what you need to do, being selfish with your time, with your attention, to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Because when you are well, you're able to show up for the people in your life a lot better.
Wow. Yeah. They do say charity begins at home.
Exactly.
So, wow. What I picked up from there, you did say acceptance. So I look into my past and everything that's happened and then accept that, okay, I've reached this point. A lot of the stuff may have happened to me or I've gone through these experiences, but that is what it is. Right, so let me accept that. And then you also mentioned the aspect of checking in. Now that I've accepted everything and where I am, let me ask myself questions. Do like a self-inquiry. Where am I? How am I feeling? It's important for me to understand that so I can then better manage myself.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful.
And when you talk about accepting your past as well, sometimes we need help because some of these scars are quite subtle. We don't see everything that has happened to us or that we wish could have happened better to us. So sometimes you do need the help of a counselor, of a therapist to help you sit through and talk about your experiences. Because remember earlier we mentioned how your childhood really builds you and shapes you and creates the individual that you're going to be as an adult. And sometimes trauma compromises you realizing your full potential. So when you go for therapy, when you go for counseling, you're able to work through these issues and realize that, okay, maybe this isn't me. Maybe this is just a defense mechanism I picked up. Some people call themselves shy.
Oh, yes, but
and
it
it's
might be
typically that. Some people say,
oh, exactly.
And it's typically that.
No nonsense.
Exactly. And it's typically that. So when you get to interact with a counselor, they give you that safe space for you to talk about yourself. They show you where your thinking errors are. They show you, how to better go through the thinking process. What is real, what is perceived. Earlier we spoke about projections. So you need to get an appreciation of that. What is real, what is perceived, what can you develop in the moment, what do you need to let go, your behavior as well. Because as much as you think about stuff, you check in, but eventually it has to turn into behavior change. Eventually you have to get to a point where now you know, so you're doing better.
Yes. And perhaps aside of them, this issue of behavioral change, what would you say is the best route to us unlearning some of these things? Do you think it's an important part of the process, having to unlearn and then reshape? What's your perspective in that respect?
I think it starts with education. Once you become aware of remember earlier I spoke about how you can live your whole life thinking that something is part of your personality, but it's only a defense mechanism that you picked up along the way. So when you become aware, when I'm telling you this now it's a new idea in your mind. Now you're aware of it. Now you know that, oh, okay, that happens sometimes. Exactly. So it starts with that. It starts with that aha moment. And then from there, you want to pinpoint on the certain things that are, and I always like to say this, as a counselor, it's tricky sometimes in practice because the expectation is that you have the answers. You know what to do.
I'm sure there's a lot of pressure.
What's wrong with me? Tell me what my problem is. You can fix it, counselor.
Yes.
And a huge part of getting help or healing as an individual is asking yourself the question that all these things that I'm doing, all these things that I have in my life right now, of all of them, what is compromising my happiness? What is helping me be happy? And if you do find that something is compromising your happiness, then it has to change. So that's how you identify what you need to change. And then you start small. The awareness. one habit a day. Repeat that habit over time. Tell yourself, affirm that habit with words.
Wow.
I am, may I be.
Yes.
You know, and over time, you get to a point where you realize, oh my goodness, at some point I struggled so much with anxiety. I'm not that guy anymore.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Certainly learning a lot, ladies and gentlemen, from Letsha Kgotla, who is from Key Wealth. Now, let's touch on a rather painful issue, but it's something that really needs to be addressed. And this is gender-based violence. As a professional in the field, what exactly is your perspective on this whole issue and, gender-based violence?
Right.
Just really.
Right. You know, gender-based violence is one of those those topics that really we really need to get to a point as society where we're ready to have an honest conversation about what this thing is. Why? Because gender-based violence isn't a problem that came out of nowhere. It was reinforced and encouraged by culture, by societal norms. The idea of patriarchy primarily fueled the idea that it is okay to disregard or violate the rights of women, right? And when I talk about human rights, I want us to appreciate that I speak of human rights as human rights. I don't think that they are rights that are uniquely women's rights or rights that are uniquely men's rights.
It's a universal aspect.
It's a universal thing. And the thing about gender-based violence is not the actual violence. It's the idea that it is okay that a woman's rights mean less than a man's rights. That's where the disconnect comes in. Because once you consider another person less than you are, then you can do whatever you want with them. So that's what we need to be undoing. We need to undo the idea that as people, as these genders, one has rights that are more than the others.
Not to branch off totally there, but I like how you said that one shouldn't consider another as being less than them, because this dynamic can actually be applied even in our workplaces. It can be applied even in our professions, in our businesses, because the minute I start to think that as your superior or supervisor, I have per se more rights, or I am, by virtue of my position, I can therefore violate you. Wow. So I really see where you talk about the disconnect and how that can also be applied to different settings. But yeah, we can get back to gender-based violence.
Yes. The roots really are in that, in the disregarding of women's rights, because over time, because of, economic power, the things that influence that, leadership positions, all of that bias kind of, started this whole gender war where, I have to prove myself in the way that you want to measure me in, and I have to prove myself in the way that you. But it goes back to all organisms. Like I said earlier, you can't measure the intelligence of a fish by its ability to climb a tree. And I think with men and women, it's the same. We are unique, and we should celebrate that.
Absolutely.
Not argue about it.
Oh, wow. No, I think this is actually an issue that warrants a deeper conversation, where we invite you once again to have a show based solely on that issue, because it really is a painful issue, but as you said, one that society must address honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So tell us, for young people who'd love to be in the wellness space and do what you do, work the magic in terms of the human element, what can they study?
Ooh, they should study themselves.
Oh, what an answer.
They should study themselves first and foremost. I think that's the most important thing. That's the biggest gift that you can give to yourself. That's the best education that you can give to yourself as an individual. Study yourself. Know what you need. Understand what you want from this life thing. And from there, just, I and it's so funny because we all feel it, but we try and numb it down for a while. But by the time you're 9 years old, you know exactly what you want to be.
Yeah.
You know exactly the career you want to go into. So all that's left is learning yourself as an individual. Because by then you already know what your talents are. You know what your competencies are. If you're a sporty person, you know you're a sporty person. If you can sing, you know that you can sing.
Wow.
If you are hands-on, if you're a hard worker, if you're service orientated, you know this by that time. So all that's left for you to understand is, how can I make the experience better for myself? That's self-awareness, that's self-management.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for that. Study yourself.
Yes.
Wow. And then see how you can make the experience better.
Yeah.
Okay, and how can we follow your journey as well as that of Key Wealth?
Right. So Key Wealth, you can find us on Facebook, on all social media platforms, really, at Key Wealth. We also have a website. It's www.keywealth.co.bw. You can also phone us at 311-4034. I'm also on Facebook at Letsha Kgotla. My cell phone number is 72383085.
I'm sure a lot of people have been penning that one down. Wow. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. We're speaking to Letsha Kgotla of Key Wealth, who's been talking about a lot of different aspects pertaining to wellness. So let me thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me, Big Budget. I really enjoyed this interview.
We're glad you did. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go, please allow us to go for a 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Right, so today's 2-minute tip, as we assist individuals and organizations with their business plans and strategies, we've noted that there tends to be a bit of confusion with respect to 2 themes that relate to organizational and managerial structures. And these 2 themes or terms are chain of command and span of control. So we'll give you brief definitions of those just for a bit of clarity. Number 1, your chain of command simply refers to the levels of organizational authority within your organization. So in this case, you're simply talking about your organizational hierarchy. So a simple example, you would start at the top with the CEO and then move further down to the management level and even further down to the operational staff. So that's basically your chain of command. When we talk about the span of control, we are now speaking to how many subordinates or individuals am I directly responsible for as a manager? So in this case, you'd ask yourself, who are the people that are accountable to me and how many are they? And that would determine your span of control. So simply put, ladies and gentlemen, your chain of command, think organizational hierarchy from top to bottom. And then, of course, when you talk about span of control, how many people am I immediately responsible for? Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for your time. As always, it's a pleasure being on screen here for you. From me, Big Budget, and the team that makes it happen, Black Network, Moana Pictures, it's good night and God bless. And never forget that you were born for so much more.